one of the organizations, which is a mercenary firm associated with the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, is still hiring right now. This is from UG Solutions, which is headed by a former CIA officer, like a 45-year veteran of the CIA. And yeah, I think he's on the board of GHF. And they're looking for senior paramilitary operators. They don't say where they're going to operate, but they say that as of May 20th, they have to be able to deploy within 2 weeks. They're looking for snipers, unconventional warfare specialists, special forces, ex-special forces personnel, and intelligence. And these are people who are going to be potentially killing residents of the Gaza Strip, Holocaust refugees in the Gaza Strip, who are Americans. And so how is this not putting a target on the US's back? I mean, you're just seeing so much more visibility of US former military personnel in Gaza in the context of the Holocaust of our time. How is this not actually imperiling US national security? I don't see how it's adding to US national security. It seems like the Israelis are using these sociopathic American mercs to try to draw some distance between themselves and what was a doomed aid boondoggle. And, the leadership is all fleeing, but you have all these figures, they're like suburban dad, former Iraq war criminals who are like 45 years old, who are effectively occupying the southern Gaza Strip. And by the way, it would be a shame if people started flooding these application forms with fake applications. We would hate to see that happen.
I recall, Max, when Biden unveiled his, fake so-called aid pier, which again was just a cover for Israel to continue blocking aid into Gaza, and possibly a front for for other operations like the massacre of over 200 Palestinians during a captive rescue mission. I recall you warning at the beginning on one of these streams that this was going to put U.S. troops also in harm's way, the aid pier off of Gaza. And just recently, a Pentagon report revealed that the number of U.S. soldiers injured in that was a lot higher than disclosed. 62 troops, not 3, were hurt during the operation of the Gaza aid pier, including a soldier who's basically, who was, I believe, fatally wounded. At least one. So, and of course, this disclosure comes way after the fact. And this operation now, similar playbook, fake aid operation to perpetuate ethnic cleansing. And on top of all the Palestinians that it will newly endanger, it also is dangerous for the contractors as well. But I'm sure they'll be paid very handsomely for their services.
Yeah, I mean, those were like enlisted soldiers. A lot of them, they were soldiers who probably joined because they, wanted to pay for college or something like that. Active duty soldiers, Christian soldiers enlisted to fight for and support the Judeo-fascist state. They didn't have a choice. These guys, these are mercenaries. They're doing it for money. I have no sympathy for them at all. But they should be told. And if I met any of them, I would tell them to their face, they are actually harming U.S. national security. They are putting all American citizens at risk with what they're doing. They are placing a target on the back of all Americans, and they're doing it for the money. And the scum who run this are just war criminals of the worst variety. And some of them have reputations as sort of heroic figures in the field of international aid, and they're trying to hide what they're doing. One figure who's been involved in all of this and is just revered, and he owns like every restaurant in Washington, D.C., and he's revered as this hero who feeds people. He just loves to feed people, and he's this gregarious Spanish cook who's actually just a front man for U.S. soft power and U.S. empire, actually was a culinary ambassador for the State Department under Tony Blinken, is good friends with Tony Blinken, is Chef Jose Andres, who has blocked me. He was heavily involved in shilling for the proxy war in Ukraine. And now he's actually condemning the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, showing some of the stampedes. Here's Jose Andres declaring GHF has left Palestinians without food. The people that created it are selfish. And now, because people are really hungry, just stormed the distribution place, damaging the fence. It seems a helicopter began shooting. World Central Kitchen, which is his international charity, that the system of kitchens is the way, Palestinians feeding Palestinians. Well, that's actually not the way. World Central Kitchen entered the Gaza Strip in early 2024 as part of the plan to subvert the way, which is the traditional UNRWA system, the United Nations system, or the real way would be to allow them to have an actual government and state, but that can't happen. And Jose Andres started actually creating his own pier using the rubble of homes that were destroyed in the Gaza Strip. We did an article criticizing this. I mean, these are homes of people who weren't able to even go back and find their belongings. It was taken without their permission. There could have been dead bodies in the homes. And then his own workers were killed deliberately by the Israeli army in a drone strike, a double tap drone strike against their convoy, which was marked and had coordinated with the Israeli military, because Jose Andres, the hero, was willing to coordinate with a genocidal military. They killed him anyway. And then he pulled out. And Jose Andres, he still maintained his friendships with the Biden administration, sending the Hellfire missiles to Israel that killed his staff. So this is a really craven, avaricious, phony individual who is now trying to criticize the program that he helped legitimize. But it gets even worse than this. And I mean, the scandal goes so deep into the international aid world. The legend of Jose Andres was really created through a documentary produced by Ron Howard, formerly known as Opie from Mayberry, who became a famous Hollywood director, Oscar-winning director. And the documentary was produced by someone named Nate Mook. Nate Mook was actually the CEO, I think, of World Central Kitchen at the time. So it's basically a naked propaganda vehicle for World Central Kitchen. It featured talking heads who were actually paid lobbyists for World Central Kitchen, pretending they were just journalists, just shameless propaganda. Jose Andres appears in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, feeding people with these kitchens, and as if they can't feed themselves in Puerto Rico. And then he goes to Ukraine and he's hanging out with Zelensky and he's a hero there. Nate Mook then leaves World Central Kitchen under a storm of controversy, the shadow of controversy, because we don't totally know what the controversy is. Something about covering up sexual harassment, blah, blah, blah. But he leaves and he has just resurfaced at the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. So Jose Andres' guy has just resurfaced apparently as the founder of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in Switzerland. But Nate Mook is refusing to speak to the press. Uri Blau is an Israeli reporter who's been trying to speak to him, refuses to speak to him, claims he was never on the board of GHF. But these are founding documents from the Swiss government showing that Nate Mook, Jose Andres' longtime executive, was a founder of this group. So basically, this Holocaust has implicated the entire aid apparatus of Western empire. I mean, this is the cream of the crop. These are the top figures.
It's such a creepy, that whole fake NGO world is such a creepy scene. Like,
yep.
So cynical, posing as humanitarians to advance hegemonic ends, and it's so many of the same people. They're always jumping to new positions and new boards, and there's so much overlap. So good digging here. He's a special advisor on Ukraine at the McCain Global Leaders Advisory Council. Okay,
and
and that's the
For the Howard Buffett Foundation, he's a special advisor. So that's Warren Buffett's son.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Howard Buffett was the donor, the $100 million donor.
And again, all this is what? It's just to replace UNRWA, which is in that campaign. This is basically all continuing the Biden policy. Like Trump is the one difference with Biden is there wasn't a starvation siege as extensive as the one now currently under Trump and Netanyahu. But aside from that, it's all the Biden policy. Biden also helped the Israeli campaign against UNRWA. Biden promoted all the allegations that UNRWA was implicated in October 7th. Completely ridiculous. And they want to replace UNRWA because UNRWA kept Palestinians alive and also kept Palestinian culture alive. In a number of schools, Palestinian students learn about their culture and they learn about why they should be proud of their culture. And you notice, how many Palestinians you see, on Gaza, to the extent they're allowed on television, speak, really good English. That's in part because of UNRWA, because the education system is so good and the people of Gaza have so much pride in their education system. And that's why they're in the crosshairs of Israel and the US, because this is about genocide. This is about wiping out a people, and not just through ethnic cleansing, but also taking away their hospitals and their education system.
UNRWA is the United Nations Refugee Works Agency. And once you destroy UNRWA, you declassify Palestinians as refugees, which is the goal of Zionism, is to say they're no longer refugees. They're just Arabs who are just there, who can be swept away with the wind into any other Arab country. And it's one of the main Zionist talking points I've always heard throughout my life is, why don't the Arabs just take them? Why don't the Arabs just take them? So that's what this is about. And not letting UNRWA back in requires replacing it with something for now. And this is that something, and we still don't know exactly what it is or who's behind it. The leadership is mostly resigned. Here's Avigdor Lieberman, who is now an Israeli opposition figure, was former deputy prime minister, extremely right-wing leader of kind of the Russian Jewish community in Israel's Likudnik world. He is saying that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, this is his exact quote, the money for humanitarian aid comes from the Mossad and the Ministry of Defense. And he's complaining that Israelis shouldn't pay to feed people in Gaza. But
he's complaining that the Israeli front group is too expensive. The Israeli front group used to advance ethnic cleansing, to pretend to be a humanitarian, is too expensive. It's costing Israeli citizens too much because of the meager amounts of so-called aid that they're handing out to people.
Yeah, but he's in the Knesset. He has access to financial information, and he's in, a power player in Israel. So he let the cat out of the bag. What he's saying is the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation has American faces. It's now like the interim director is a former USAID administrator named John Acri, and it's a front for the Mossad. So, the Mossad is behind this whole thing, is what he's saying. There's $100 million from a mysterious donor. The donor could be the Mossad, or I know how the Mossad works. They'll tell some venture capitalist or hedge fund guy who's sympathetic to Israel on Wall Street, hey, can you just kick us down this money and we'll pay you back later because we need it now. Send it to this shell company. So it could be a Mossad cutout that's paying for this, but it's Israeli through and through, and the US and its mercenaries are fronting for Israel and putting targets on their backs. I don't think the scandal could be adequately captured in one live stream, but it's this has to be one of the biggest aid scandals in history. Like the last one I can think of that's anywhere close to this would be after the earthquake in Haiti, like what the Clinton Foundation went and did, and all these other, then Red Cross, where they just took hundreds of millions of dollars and left with 5 houses built. And it's the Trump era. The mask is off. It's just another giant mask off moment. All these people need to be jailed. They're they're scamming someone. They're stealing money from someone. We don't even know who, in order to legitimize a Holocaust.
At the behest of a foreign government, acting as a front for a foreign apartheid state. I mean, talk about all the fear mongering about foreign interference and, the whole thing with Russiagate was like Russia, Russia's taking over the US. They're controlling our president. And, this is actual foreign interference. This actually is foreign control. And it's acting as an agent of the Israeli government to carry out, as you said, a Holocaust. Look at those images. I mean, what do these images remind us of? People penned in cages, desperate for the meager amount of food rations that they get every single day. I mean, the parallels to the Nazi genocide are constant. Are constant. I'm not sure if we mentioned, but one of the latest atrocities the other day was Israel bombing a shelter, a school shelter, where dozens of civilians, I think killing 36 people just with one bombing. That was the other night. It's impossible to keep track of all the atrocities because they just pile up every single day.
And Western media doesn't report it anymore. Like, I was off Twitter for a while because I was in transit. If you got to like log out of everything now if you're going through like US customs. And so I just missed out on a lot of it, but I was still able to, like, while in hotels or like on a flight, I was able to watch CNN and see what mainstream US media was reporting. And it's just not even there. It's not even there at all. You have to be on social media to even know what's going on during the Holocaust of our time. And the images are just so hideous. They just get worse and worse and worse. It's just unfathomable.
Well, the images that everybody should have seen were the images of the 9 charred children, the 9 children of the doctor who were burned alive by Israel. If that was any other conflict, certainly a conflict that the U.S. was on the other side of, those images would have been everywhere. And then the image of the young girl, her home in flames, trying to like escape the fire, and she suffered she survived, thankfully. Her whole family was killed. That image of that little girl in the flames should have been everywhere, but it wasn't. I mean, you saw it on social media if you went there, but otherwise that was kept off the front pages.